Greystone Mansion stands in Beverly Hills, a limestone palace visible from the canyon below. 55 rooms occupy 46,000 square feet. The facade rises in Tudor Gothic style, gray stone against manicured gardens. Film crews use the location regularly. Tourists walk the grounds on weekends. The building suggests old Los Angeles wealth, the kind accumulated before the movie industry defined the city. But before it became a filming location, before the city converted it to a public park, before it represented anything about Hollywood glamour, it was the site of a violent death. The mansion was completed in late 1928. The cost approached $4 million, an extraordinary sum for the period. Edward Doheny Sr., an oil magnate, built it for his only son. The family moved in during the winter. By the following February, Ned Doheny was dead in an upstairs bedroom, shot alongside his secretary. The official story called it murder-suicide. The physical evidence suggested complications. The circumstances have never been fully explained. The investigation closed quickly. Questions remained. This is the story of how Greystone was built, the oil fortune that financed its construction, the corruption scandal that shadowed the family, and the shooting that occurred just months after completion. The mansion exists as both architectural achievement and crime scene. Understanding its history requires examining both. Chapter 1. The Oil Wildcatter. Edward Doheny's Rise. Edward Lawrence Doheny was born in 1856 in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. His family had little money. Formal education ended early. By his teenage years, Doheny worked various jobs, eventually gravitating toward mining in the American West. He prospected for gold and silver across New Mexico and Arizona territories during the 1870s and 80s. The work was difficult and rarely profitable. Doheny existed on the margins, searching for the strike that would change his circumstances. That strike came, but not in precious metals. In 1892, Doheny noticed oil seeping from the ground near downtown Los Angeles. Others had observed the same phenomenon, but considered it a nuisance. Doheny recognized opportunity. Los Angeles had few oil operations at that time. The city's economy centered on agriculture and real estate speculation. Oil existed beneath the surface, largely untapped. Doheny and his partner, Charles Canfield, began drilling near what is now Westlake Park. The location was residential, the equipment primitive by later standards. The well they dug reached a depth of approximately 155 feet. In 1893, the well produced oil. The quantities were modest initially, but proved the presence of substantial reserves beneath Los Angeles. The discovery transformed the city's industrial landscape. Within a decade, oil derricks rose throughout Los Angeles. The forests of wooden drilling towers became defining features of the urban environment. Doheny established the first significant oil operation in the region. His timing was exceptional. Industrial demand for petroleum was increasing. Automobiles were beginning their transformation of American transportation. Oil would become the century's essential commodity. Doheny expanded aggressively. He acquired additional drilling sites across California. His operations extended to Mexico, where he developed massive petroleum fields. By 1900, Doheny controlled substantial oil production in both countries. The formation of Pan American Petroleum and Transport Company consolidated these holdings into a major corporation. Doheny's personal wealth grew accordingly, eventually reaching estimated values exceeding $100 million. The fortune accumulated from extraction and refining. Doheny's companies produced crude oil, transported it via pipeline and tanker, and refined it into usable products. The integration of these operations created efficiencies that generated enormous profits. The business model was straightforward. Find oil, extract it, deliver it to markets demanding petroleum products. Execution required capital, technical expertise, and willingness to operate in difficult environments. Doheny possessed all three. By the 1920s, Edward Doheny ranked among America's wealthiest men. His rise from prospector to oil magnate represented the kind of success story that defined the industrial age. The fortune he built would finance Greystone Mansion, but wealth of that magnitude drew attention beyond business circles. Doheny's operations and his political connections would eventually become subjects of federal investigation. The oil that made him rich would also connect him to one of the era's major corruption scandals. Chapter 2. Father and Son. Ned Doheny's position. Edward Lawrence Doheny Jr. was born in 1893, called Ned by family and associates. His childhood differed completely from his father's hardscrabble early years. Ned grew up surrounded by wealth. The family maintained multiple residences. Servants handled domestic work. Education occurred at private institutions. The contrast between father's origin and son's upbringing was total. Ned attended the University of Southern California, studying subjects that would prepare him for eventual business leadership. His education emphasized practical skills rather than purely academic pursuits. The assumption was clear: Ned would enter the family oil business and eventually assume control. Edward Sr. was building an empire intended to pass to his son. In 1914, Ned married Lucy Marceline Smith. Lucy came from a prominent Los Angeles family. The marriage united two wealthy households, creating social and business connections that reinforced both families' positions. Ned and Lucy would eventually have 5 children, 4 sons and 1 daughter. The family represented the next generation of Doheny wealth and influence. Ned took positions within his father's oil companies following his education. He served in executive roles, learning operations and management. The work was real rather than ceremonial. Ned handled negotiations, oversaw projects, and managed personnel. His father provided opportunities but expected competence. The oil business was complex and competitive. Ned's position came with genuine responsibilities. The relationship between Edward Sr. and Ned was reportedly close. The father had worked brutally hard to create wealth his son inherited. That dynamic created both opportunity and pressure. Ned enjoyed advantages his father never had. He also carried expectations his father's early poverty had never imposed. The fortune existed to benefit the family, but also to perpetuate itself through capable management. By the 1920s, Ned occupied a significant role in Doheny petroleum operations. He participated in major decisions and represented the company in various capacities. His position was legitimate rather than merely symbolic. But legitimacy didn't eliminate the reality that Ned's authority derived from his father's achievements and his father's wealth. He managed portions of an empire someone else had built. Ned's life revolved around business and family. He maintained the social obligations expected of his class. The Doheny name carried weight in Los Angeles, where Edward Sr.'s oil operations had helped develop the city's industrial economy. Ned occupied a position of privilege and responsibility in equal measure. The family's standing would face challenges as Edward Sr.'s business dealings attracted federal scrutiny. Ned's position within the family business meant he would be affected by investigations into his father's conduct. The scandal that emerged in the early 1920s would shadow the family, even as plans were developed to build Greystone. Ned's life existed in the intersection of enormous wealth and growing public controversy about how that wealth was obtained and used. Chapter 3. Teapot Dome. The scandal that changed everything. The Teapot Dome scandal originated in decisions made shortly after World War I. The federal government controlled several oil reserves set aside for naval use. These reserves included Teapot Dome in Wyoming and Elk Hills in California. The oil remained underground, held for potential military needs. Access to these reserves was restricted to prevent private exploitation of public resources. In 1921, President Warren Harding's administration transferred control of naval oil reserves from the Navy Department to the Department of Interior. The Interior Secretary, Albert Fall, assumed authority over the reserves. Fall and Edward Doheny had known each other for decades. Both had prospected in the Southwest during the 1880s. The relationship was personal, as well as professional. Shortly after gaining control of the reserves, Fall granted drilling rights to private companies without competitive bidding. Edward Doheny's Pan American Petroleum received rights to Elk Hills. The arrangement allowed Doheny's company to extract oil from federal land under favorable terms. The deal generated immediate profits for Pan American. In November 1921, Ned Doheny delivered $100,000 in cash to Albert Fall's Washington office. The money was described as a personal loan from Edward Doheny to his old friend. The loan had no documentation, no collateral, no formal repayment schedule. The timing was notable. The loan occurred shortly before Fall granted drilling rights to Doheny's company. The arrangement remained secret until 1923, when Senate investigators began examining the oil reserve leases. The investigation revealed the pattern. Interior Secretary Fall granted valuable drilling rights to private companies, and Fall received substantial payments from those same companies. The payments were described as loans or personal business dealings rather than bribes, but the sequence and amounts suggested corruption. Public hearings began in 1923. Edward Doheny testified before Senate committees. He confirmed the $100,000 payment to Fall, but insisted it was a legitimate loan between old friends. He denied any connection between the payment and the drilling rights. The testimony was problematic. The loan's terms were unusual. The timing was suspicious. The lack of documentation was convenient. The scandal expanded beyond Doheny's involvement. Other oil companies received favorable lease terms under similar circumstances. Fall had accepted payments from multiple sources. The case became emblematic of government corruption in the Harding administration. Several Harding appointees faced investigations for various improprieties. Teapot Dome became the most notorious. For the Doheny family, the scandal created sustained negative publicity. Edward Sr. faced potential criminal prosecution. The business reputation he'd built over decades was compromised. Public opinion turned hostile. Newspaper coverage was extensive and often critical. The Dohenys represented corrupt wealth, exploiting government connections for private gain. The legal process extended for years. Fall was eventually convicted of accepting bribes and served prison time. Edward Doheny faced trial, but was acquitted. The jury's decision suggested legal standards for proving bribery weren't met, not that the conduct was appropriate. The acquittal didn't restore Doheny's public reputation. The scandal's timing overlapped with planning and construction of Greystone Mansion. As the Doheny family faced congressional hearings and public criticism, they proceeded with building one of California's most expensive private residences. The mansion would be completed during ongoing legal proceedings. The family's determination to build Greystone amid scandal suggested defiance, denial, or perhaps desperation to establish legitimate dynasty credentials that corruption charges couldn't undermine. Chapter 4. Building a Legacy. The decision to build Greystone. The decision to construct Greystone Mansion was made during 1925 or early 1926. Precise documentation varies. Edward Doheny Sr. determined to build a substantial residence for Ned's family. The location selected was Beverly Hills, on a hillside parcel exceeding 18 acres. The property offered commanding views and relative isolation despite proximity to developing neighborhoods. The choice of Beverly Hills was deliberate. The community was establishing itself as Los Angeles's premier residential area for wealthy families. The Beverly Hills Hotel had opened in 1912. Large estates were appearing on hillside sites. The area suggested arrival at the highest social tier. Building there positioned the Doheny family among California's elite, separate from downtown Los Angeles's industrial character. The mansion's purpose extended beyond simple housing. Ned and Lucy already had adequate residence. Greystone represented something larger: establishment of Doheny family permanence. The building would demonstrate that oil wealth could create lasting legacy. The structure would outlive its builders, providing future generations with tangible symbol of family achievement. The timing was complicated by the Teapot Dome scandal. Congressional hearings were ongoing. Public criticism was intense. Building an extraordinarily expensive mansion while facing corruption, allegations might seem tone-deaf or defiant. The Dohenys proceeded regardless. Perhaps the construction represented determination that scandal wouldn't define the family. Perhaps it was an attempt to establish legitimacy through architectural monumentality. The budget was substantial. Various sources estimate construction costs between $3 and $4 million, though exact figures are difficult to verify. For context, $3 million in 1926 had purchasing power equivalent to approximately $45 million in early 21st century terms. The sum was extraordinary even for wealthy families of the period. Edward Sr. financed construction. The mansion was gift to Ned's family. The gesture reflected both generosity and dynasty building. Edward had created enormous wealth. Greystone would house the next generation while displaying what that wealth could create. The building would be Doheny family seat, a permanent marker of their place in California society. Selecting an architect was critical. The project required someone capable of designing and executing work at this scale and budget. The architect would need technical competence and aesthetic sensibility appropriate to the client's ambitions. The choice fell on Gordon Kaufman, an established Los Angeles architect with reputation for sophisticated design. Kaufman had emigrated from England and established successful practice in Southern California. His previous work demonstrated range and skill. He designed residences, commercial buildings, and institutional structures. His aesthetic favored traditional European styles adapted to California conditions. He understood how to create buildings that suggested permanence and cultural authority. The commission to design Greystone represented significant opportunity for Kaufman. The project's scale and budget allowed architectural ambitions rarely achievable. Kaufman would have substantial resources and apparently cooperative clients. The resulting building would be among his most prominent works, defining his career reputation. The site preparation began once design was finalized. The hillside location required extensive grading. The foundation would need careful engineering to ensure stability. The construction would be a major undertaking, requiring coordination of numerous trades and materials sourced from distant locations. The timeline projected approximately 2 years from groundbreaking to completion. Greystone's construction would proceed as Doheny family faced continued legal and public relations challenges. The mansion would rise as testimony to oil fortune's permanence, regardless of scandal's temporary disruptions. The building would establish physical legacy intended to outlast its builders and their controversies. Chapter 5. Gordon Kaufman, the architect's vision. Gordon Burney Kaufman was born in England in 1888. He trained as architect in London, learning classical design principles and traditional building methods. Early 20th century English architectural education emphasized historical styles, particularly Gothic and Tudor forms. Kaufman absorbed these influences before emigrating to North America. Kaufman arrived in California during the 1920s, establishing practice in Los Angeles. The city was experiencing dramatic growth. Oil wealth, real estate development, and emerging entertainment industry created demand for substantial residential and commercial architecture. Kaufman found opportunities that established English practice might not have offered. His training and aesthetic sensibility suited clients seeking European sophistication adapted to California settings. Kaufman's previous work demonstrated versatility. He designed residences in various historical styles. His buildings showed understanding of proportion, material, and ornamental detail. The work was competent and often elegant. Kaufman understood how to create buildings that satisfied wealthy clients' desires for impressive architecture that referenced established cultural traditions. The commission to design Greystone represented opportunity to work at unprecedented scale. The Doheny budget allowed architectural ambitions that financial constraints usually prevented. Kaufman could specify premium materials, extensive ornamentation, and spatial grandeur rarely achievable. The project would be among his most significant works. Kaufman's design for Greystone drew on Gothic revival and Tudor styles. The architectural vocabulary referenced English country estates and medieval manor houses. The choice was deliberate. These styles suggested antiquity, permanence, and aristocratic heritage. For a family seeking to establish dynastic credentials, the associations were appropriate. The exterior design featured Indiana limestone as primary material. Limestone suggested permanence and recalled European stone construction. The material was expensive and required skilled installation. The choice elevated the building beyond typical California residential construction, which often used stucco or wood. Limestone meant Greystone would appear substantial and permanent from its completion. The facade incorporated Gothic details, pointed arch elements, stone tracery, carved ornamental features. The roof design used slate tiles, another expensive material choice that referenced European tradition. The building's massing created varied roof lines and irregular silhouette. The asymmetry was intentional, suggesting organic growth over time, rather than single planning moment. The floor plan organized 55 rooms across 3 primary levels, plus basement service areas. The layout separated public spaces, family quarters, and service functions. The ground floor contained formal rooms for entertaining, ballroom, library, dining room, drawing rooms. The scale of these spaces allowed large gatherings. The ceiling heights emphasized grandeur through vertical volume. The upper floors contained private family quarters. Bedrooms, sitting rooms, and bathrooms occupied these levels. The separation between public and private zones was clear. Family life could occur away from social obligations. The arrangement reflected traditional estate organization, where public performance and private life occupied distinct spaces. The basement level contained service functions, kitchens, laundry, storage, mechanical systems, and staff quarters. The layout ensured domestic work remained largely invisible to residents and guests. Servants could circulate through separate passages. The class divisions embedded in the architecture reflected period social structures. Kaufman designed notable features throughout. A 2-lane bowling alley occupied basement space. A screening room anticipated entertainment technology's importance. The library featured extensive built-in shelving and carved wood detailing. The bathrooms incorporated luxury fixtures and tile work. Each major room received specific design attention. The technical systems represented modern standards. Central heating used state-of-the-art boiler systems. Electrical wiring throughout provided reliable lighting and power. Elevators connected floors, unusual for residential construction of the period. The building combined historical aesthetic with contemporary mechanical systems. Kaufman's vision balanced grandeur with livability. The building needed to function as actual family residence, not merely ceremonial showplace. The design accommodated children, daily routines, and practical domestic needs, alongside formal entertaining spaces. The success of the design would depend on achieving this balance between monumentality and habitability. Chapter 6. Breaking Ground. Construction begins. Construction of Greystone Mansion officially began in 1927. The precise start date varies in different sources, but groundbreaking occurred during the spring or early summer. The hillside site required extensive preparation before actual building could commence. The work would continue for approximately 18 months, concluding in late 1928. The site presented immediate challenges. The parcel sloped significantly. Building a structure of Greystone's size required substantial grading to create level building platforms. Earth-moving equipment of the 1920s was less powerful than later machinery. The grading work was labor-intensive and time-consuming. Workers reshaped the hillside to accommodate the mansion's footprint and surrounding grounds. The foundation work was critical. The building's weight would be substantial. Limestone facing, steel framing, and multiple floors of interior construction created loads requiring secure foundation. Engineers designed foundation systems adequate for the structure and the hillside location. The foundation work proceeded through summer and into fall of 1927. Materials began arriving as foundation work progressed. The primary exterior material, Indiana limestone, traveled approximately 2,000 miles from Midwest quarries to the Beverly Hills construction site. The limestone came as rough blocks, requiring final shaping and installation by skilled stonemasons. The quantity required for Greystone's exterior was substantial, creating logistics challenges for transportation and storage. The limestone selection was deliberate. Indiana limestone quarries produced consistent material suitable for carved ornamental work. The stone had been used for prominent American buildings, including multiple government structures in Washington. The choice suggested permanence and connected Greystone to tradition of monumental public architecture, though Greystone was private residence. The workforce assembling for construction included multiple specialized trades. Stonemasons cut and installed limestone facing. Structural steelworkers erected the building's frame. Carpenters built interior framing and installed finish woodwork. Plasterers created interior wall and ceiling surfaces. Tile setters, painters, electricians, plumbers, and other trades contributed specialized skills. The labor force was entirely free-wage workers, a notable contrast to some historic American construction projects. This was 1920s California, where construction trades were organized and labor law had evolved beyond earlier periods. Workers received wages, negotiated through contractors and subcontractors. The construction created substantial employment during the building period. The construction process followed logical sequence. Foundation completion allowed structural steel erection. The steel frame provided structure for exterior limestone installation. As exterior walls rose, interior framing could proceed. Roofing followed exterior wall completion, making the structure weatherproof. Interior finishing work occurred once the building was enclosed. Weather affected construction schedules. Southern California's mild climate allowed year-round work, though seasonal rains could disrupt certain operations. The relatively consistent weather conditions helped maintain construction pace. Projects in harsher climates faced winter shutdowns. Greystone's Beverly Hills location offered weather advantages that helped meet the projected timeline. Site logistics required careful management. Materials needed storage space, protected from weather and theft. Equipment required maintenance areas. Workers needed facilities for breaks and tool storage. The 18-acre site provided adequate space for these functions, but organization was essential to prevent chaos as multiple trades worked simultaneously. The construction proceeded through 1927 and into 1928. Progress was visible as the structure rose. The limestone facing created impressive appearance even before completion. The irregular roofline and varied facade treatment gave the building character as construction advanced. The hillside location made the emerging mansion visible from surrounding areas, advertising the scale of the project. By summer 1928, the structure was largely complete. Interior finishing work continued through fall. The construction timeline of approximately 18 months from groundbreaking to substantial completion represented efficient execution for a project of this complexity. The Doheny family's resources enabled steady progress without financial delays that might slow other projects. Chapter 7: Limestone and Labor, Building the Structure. Indiana limestone dominated Greystone's exterior appearance. The material came from quarries near Bedford, Indiana, a region known for consistent, high-quality limestone deposits. Bedford limestone had supplied material for numerous prominent American buildings. The quarries produced stone suitable for both structural and ornamental purposes, with characteristics allowing detailed carving while maintaining durability. Quarrying limestone required specific knowledge and skill. Workers identified suitable stone layers within quarries. The extraction process involved drilling holes along desired break lines, inserting wedges, and splitting blocks from the quarry face. The work was physically demanding and required understanding of stone's natural grain and fracture patterns. Improper technique could shatter valuable stone or injure workers. The rough blocks extracted from quarries measured larger than their final dimensions. This oversizing allowed for damage during transport and provided material for final shaping at the construction site. Each block weighed hundreds of pounds. The quantities required for Greystone's exterior required sustained quarry production over months. Transportation presented logistical challenges. The limestone traveled by rail from Indiana to California. The journey covered approximately 2,000 miles. Rail cars carried blocks from quarry sidings to western destinations. The transcontinental journey took days or weeks, depending on routing and rail traffic. Damage during transport was risk. Blocks arriving broken or chipped represented wasted cost and scheduled delay. At the Beverly Hills construction site, stonemasons performed final stone preparation. The rough blocks required cutting to precise dimensions for their specific locations in the building. Masons used hand tools and increasingly available power equipment to shape each block. The work required accuracy. Stones needed to fit tightly together. Gaps would compromise appearance and potentially allow water penetration. The limestone installation proceeded systematically. The exterior walls rose course by course. Each stone block was positioned, leveled, and mortared into place. The mortar bonding the stones required proper mixing and application. Too much mortar created messy joints. Too little compromised structural integrity. Experienced masons developed technique through years of practice. The structural system behind the limestone facing used steel framing. Steel provided strength and allowed larger interior spaces than traditional load-bearing stone construction. The steel frame carried the building's weight. The limestone facing was attached to the frame rather than supporting loads independently. This system combined modern structural efficiency with traditional aesthetic appearance. The steel erection required different skills than stone masonry. Structural steel workers positioned and connected steel beams and columns according to engineering specifications. The work occurred at height and required coordination and precision. Steel connections used rivets or bolts. Proper installation was critical for structural safety. Inspections ensured work met engineering standards. As exterior walls rose, scaffolding systems provided access for workers. The scaffolding was wooden framework erected alongside the building. Workers stood on scaffold platforms while installing stone and performing other exterior work. The scaffolding rose as the building gained height. Safety precautions were less developed than later periods. Falls and injuries were occupational hazards. The ornamental limestone elements required specialized carving. Gothic details, decorative tracery, and carved features appeared at various locations on the facade. Skilled carvers shaped these elements, often working from templates or drawings. The carved work was time-consuming and expensive. The ornamental details distinguished Greystone from simpler buildings and justified the substantial budget. The slate roof installation followed exterior wall completion. Slate tiles were quarried stone material, expensive and durable. Installation required skill to ensure weather-tight coverage. Each slate tile was individually positioned and secured. The irregular roofline Kaufman designed created additional complexity. The multiple roof planes, varied pitches, and intersecting sections required careful execution to prevent leaks. The construction employed hundreds of workers across multiple trades. Peak construction periods saw particularly large workforces on site. The coordination of these workers required experienced supervision. Contractors managed scheduling to ensure trades worked efficiently without interfering with each other. The complexity of construction at this scale demanded professional project management. Weather protection became possible once roofing was complete. The enclosed structure allowed interior finishing work to proceed regardless of outside conditions. This transition was an important milestone. Interior work represented a substantial portion of remaining construction. The weatherproof building allowed steady progress toward completion through fall 1928. Chapter 8. Interiors. Designing opulence. Greystone's interior spaces reflected the scale and budget available to Gordon Kaufman. 55 rooms occupied approximately 46,000 square feet. The spatial organization separated public, private, and service functions across multiple levels. The interior design combined traditional architectural details with modern mechanical systems and custom-designed elements. The ground floor contained the primary public spaces. The entry hall established the building's character immediately upon entrance. The space featured high ceilings, carved woodwork, and stone flooring. The proportions suggested grandeur appropriate to the exterior architecture. From the entry hall, circulation routes led to the major rooms used for entertaining and formal family life. The ballroom occupied significant ground floor space. The room measured approximately 30 feet by 50 feet with ceiling height exceeding 20 feet. The scale allowed large gatherings. Decorative plasterwork adorned the ceiling. Tall windows provided natural light. The room could accommodate social events expected of families at this economic level. The space represented social ambition made physical. The library featured extensive built-in shelving for book collections. The woodwork was carved oak with detailed molding profiles. A fireplace provided focal point and warmth. The room suggested scholarly pursuits and cultural sophistication. Libraries and houses of this period served as statements about owners' intellectual interests regardless of actual reading habits. The space functioned symbolically as well as practically. The formal dining room seated substantial numbers. The table, when fully extended, accommodated 20 or more guests. The room's finishes matched the building's overall quality. Decorative plaster ceiling, carved wood wainscoting, and leaded glass windows created appropriate setting for formal dinners. The adjacent butler's pantry provided service access without servants being prominently visible during meals. The drawing rooms and sitting rooms provided spaces for more intimate gatherings or family use. These rooms featured fireplaces, comfortable furniture arrangements, and decorative finishes appropriate to their functions. The variety of room sizes allowed flexibility. Large parties could spread across multiple spaces. Small gatherings could use individual rooms without the building feeling empty. The ground floor also included Gordon Kaufman's unusual inclusion of a two-lane bowling alley. The space occupied basement level but represented entertainment amenity uncommon in residential architecture. The bowling alley suggested modern recreational interests. The installation required specialized equipment and finishing. The feature distinguished Greystone from more conventional estates. A screening room provided private film viewing capability. The motion picture industry was becoming a dominant force in Los Angeles during the 1920s. Wealthy families could afford private screening facilities. The room included projection equipment and tiered seating. The family could view films without attending public theaters. The amenity reflected both wealth and contemporary entertainment technology. The upper floors contained private family quarters. Ned and Lucy's bedroom suite occupied substantial space with connected sitting areas, closets, and bathrooms. The children's bedrooms were distributed across the upper level. Each room received individual design attention, though decoration in children's rooms was simpler than principal spaces. Additional bedrooms provided guest accommodations. The bathroom installations represented luxury standards. Multiple bathrooms served different bedrooms. The fixtures were high-quality porcelain and metal. Tile work covered walls and floors. Some bathrooms included separate tub and shower installations. The plumbing systems delivering water and removing waste represented significant mechanical infrastructure hidden within walls and floor structures. The service areas occupied basement and portions of upper levels. The kitchen was large commercial-grade space equipped for preparing meals for family and guests. Separate servants' dining areas, storage rooms, laundry facilities, and staff sleeping quarters occupied service zones. The spatial separation between family areas and service functions reflected social hierarchies of the period. The mechanical systems throughout the building represented modern standards. Central heating used oil-fired boiler systems, circulating hot water or steam to radiators in individual rooms. The system provided reliable heating unusual for the period. Electrical wiring throughout supplied power for lighting, appliances, and communication systems. The electrical installation was a substantial undertaking requiring extensive conduit and wire throughout the structure. Elevator installations connected floors, particularly serving as access between service areas and upper levels. Residential elevators were unusual for the period. The inclusion demonstrated both luxury and practical necessity given the building's size. Staff moving supplies and residents moving between floors benefited from mechanical assistance. The interior finishing work proceeded through late 1928. Plasterers created smooth wall surfaces and decorative ceiling elements. Painters applied finishes to walls and woodwork. Finished carpenters installed doors, built-in cabinetry, and decorative millwork. Tile setters completed bathroom and kitchen installations. The coordination of these finishing trades required months of sustained work before the building was ready for occupancy. Chapter 9. The Grounds, Gardens, and Landscape. Greystone's 18-acre site extended well beyond the mansion's footprint. The surrounding landscape required design and development comparable in scale to the building itself. The grounds would include formal gardens, terraced hillsides, service structures, and extensive infrastructure supporting the estate's operation. The landscape architect worked in coordination with Gordon Kaufman to create unified design. The site's natural topography influenced landscape design. The hillside sloped away from the mansion, creating opportunities for terraced gardens and dramatic views. The slope also presented challenges for access, drainage, and creating usable level areas. The landscape design would need to address these practical requirements while achieving aesthetic goals appropriate to the estate's grandeur. Formal gardens occupied areas immediately adjacent to the mansion. These gardens featured geometric layouts, paved walkways, ornamental plantings, and architectural elements like balustrades and decorative urns. The formal garden style referenced European estate traditions. The carefully maintained appearance demonstrated wealth through obvious labor investment. Formal gardens required constant attention to maintain designed appearance. Native and imported plant materials filled the landscape. Trees provided shade and vertical elements. Shrubs created defined spaces and seasonal color. Ground covers and lawns produced green surfaces, contrasting with architectural materials. The plant selections reflected both aesthetic preferences and practical considerations about what would thrive in Southern California climate. Water features incorporated pools and fountains at various locations across the grounds. The water elements provided visual interest and cooling effects in summer heat. The pools included both decorative installations and a functional swimming pool for family recreation. The infrastructure supplying water to these features required extensive pipe systems and pumping equipment. The estate's infrastructure extended throughout the grounds. Roads and driveways provided vehicle access. Pathways connected different areas of the property. Retaining walls held terraced levels. Drainage systems prevented erosion and water damage. Lighting fixtures allowed evening use of grounds. Irrigation systems watered plantings. The hidden infrastructure represented substantial engineering and construction separate from visible landscape features. Service buildings occupied portions of the property away from the main residence. Garages housed the family's automobiles. The garage building was a substantial structure accommodating multiple vehicles. Additional outbuildings provided storage for grounds maintenance equipment, tools, and supplies. Greenhouse structures allowed propagation and cultivation of plants for the gardens. Staff housing occupied separate structures. Some estate employees lived on the property, requiring residential accommodations. These dwellings were modest compared to the main mansion, but provided necessary housing. The staff quarters location maintained physical separation from family spaces, while keeping workers available for duties requiring immediate response. The grounds created self-contained environment. The perimeter boundaries defined the estate's limits. Walls, fences, and plantings provided privacy. Gates controlled access points. The property functioned as private world, separate from surrounding neighborhoods. The scale and resources created isolation unusual even among wealthy households. The views from the property extended across the developing Los Angeles basin. The hillside elevation provided vantage points overlooking the city below. The views were asset, highlighting the site's advantages. The landscape design incorporated viewing areas and terraces positioned to take advantage of vista opportunities. The connection between house, gardens, and broader landscape created unified composition. The landscape work proceeded concurrently with mansion construction and continued after building completion. Establishing gardens required time for plants to mature. The full designed landscape appearance wouldn't emerge immediately. The ongoing maintenance would require permanent staff dedicated to grounds care. The landscape represented continuing expense beyond construction costs. The completed grounds transformed the raw hillside site into designed environment suitable for the mansion. The landscape provided settings for outdoor entertaining, family recreation, and visual enjoyment. The gardens and grounds extended the architecture into the broader site. The unified design of house and landscape created total environment, expressing wealth, taste, and social position through built form and cultivated nature. Chapter 10. Moving in. The Doheny family takes residence. The Doheny family took occupancy of Greystone Mansion in late 1928. Exact move-in dates vary in historical sources, but the family was in residence by December. The transition from construction site to family home required final completion of systems, delivery, and installation of furnishings, and hiring of household staff sufficient to operate an estate of this scale. Ned and Lucy Doheny moved into the mansion with their 5 children. The children ranged in age from infants to teenagers. The family composition influenced how spaces would be used. The children's presence transformed the grand architecture into actual residence. Bedrooms became individual territories. The numerous rooms provided both together spaces and separation, allowing simultaneous activities. Operating Greystone required substantial staff. The household employed cooks, housekeepers, maids, laundry workers, maintenance personnel, chauffeurs, and gardeners. Estimates of staff size vary, but likely exceeded 20 full-time employees. Some staff lived on the estate, others arrived daily. The coordination and management of household staff was itself full-time occupation, typically handled by senior staff reporting to the family. The daily rhythms of family life established themselves within the mansion's rooms. Breakfast might occur in a morning room. Children attended school, requiring transportation. Ned conducted business, sometimes using the mansion's office spaces. Lucy managed household matters and social obligations. Evening meals brought the family together in the formal dining room or more casual breakfast room, depending on circumstances. The mansion functioned as setting for social entertaining. The scale and appointments made it suitable venue for dinner parties, receptions, and gatherings expected among Los Angeles elite. The ballroom could accommodate large parties. The multiple sitting rooms allowed guests to circulate. The formal dining room seated substantial numbers. The building fulfilled its designed purpose as both home and showplace. The relationship between family life and architectural grandeur created interesting tensions. Children playing in formal rooms weren't necessarily compatible with the space's intended dignity. The need for comfort and informality conflicted with the building's monumental character. Families occupying grand houses always negotiated between architecture's formal requirements and daily life's casual realities. The Dohenys experienced this balance during their brief residence. The location provided relative isolation despite Beverly Hills' growing development. The 18-acre site created buffer from neighbors. The hillside position offered privacy. The gates controlled access. Within the estate boundaries, the family existed in controlled environments separated from urban Los Angeles spreading below. The mansion functioned as retreat from the city that generated the wealth that built it. The period between move-in and the events of February 1929 was brief. The family occupied Greystone for approximately 2 to 3 months of normal residence. During this period, the mansion functioned as intended, as home for the next generation of Dohenys and as symbol of the family's permanent establishment in California society. The building represented achievement, dynasty, and future. The brevity of this normal period is significant in retrospect. Greystone was planned, designed, and constructed over several years. The family enjoyed the completed residence for mere months before tragedy occurred. The investment of time, money, and ambition produced only brief period of intended use. The mansion's purpose would be cut short by violence that transformed it from family home to crime scene. Edward Doheny Sr., living elsewhere, must have viewed Greystone with satisfaction during these months. The gift to his son's family was realized. The building stood complete and occupied. The scandal's publicity had not prevented the mansion's completion or the family's enjoyment of it. Whatever vindication the building was meant to provide seemed achieved. The future appeared secure. The dynasty's physical seat existed as planned. Chapter 11. Hugh Plunkett, the secretary's role. Hugh Plunkett entered the Doheny family's life through employment. He served as secretary to Ned Doheny, a position involving business correspondence, scheduling, and administrative support. The role was intimate in the sense that secretaries necessarily knew details of their employer's professional and sometimes personal affairs. Plunkett had access to information and situations beyond typical employee relationships. Plunkett's background before joining the Doheny organization is less thoroughly documented than might be expected given later events. He apparently came from working-class origins. His education and training qualified him for clerical work, but not for independent professional practice. The secretary position offered stable employment with wealthy family. The role provided income and certain status by association with the Dohenys. The relationship between Ned and Plunkett extended beyond strictly professional boundaries. Plunkett was reportedly frequent presence at Greystone and at other Doheny residences. He dined with the family on occasions. He participated in some social activities. The relationship suggested trust and perhaps friendship alongside employment. The boundaries between professional and personal relationships were less clearly defined than modern workplace norms might suggest. Plunkett's position meant he was aware of the Doheny family's business dealings, including matters related to Teapot Dome. Secretaries handled correspondence, maintained files, and managed communications. Plunkett would have seen documents and correspondence relating to the scandal. His knowledge of sensitive matters created potential complications. Employees with damaging information about employers occupy vulnerable positions. During weeks preceding February 16, 1929, Plunkett's behavior apparently attracted notice. Various accounts, many from later testimony and reporting, suggested he seemed agitated or concerned. The specific nature of any distress is difficult to determine from historical record. Later explanations for his state of mind would be offered, but contemporary documentation of his behavior in preceding days is limited. Plunkett maintained residence separate from Greystone, but visited the mansion regularly for work purposes. The pattern was apparently established and expected. His presence at the estate wouldn't attract particular attention. He had legitimate reasons to be there. The family and staff knew him. His access to the house and to Ned was routine rather than exceptional. The professional relationship between employer and secretary created dependencies running both directions. Ned relied on Plunkett for administrative support. Plunkett's employment and income depended on Ned's continued satisfaction with his work. The relationship's stability benefited both parties. Any disruption would affect both men's situations. The interdependency created stakes for maintaining the relationship successfully. Questions about Plunkett's personal life and circumstances during this period remain partially unanswered. His financial situation, personal relationships, and psychological state in the weeks before February 16 are subjects of speculation based on limited evidence. Later explanations would attribute various motivations and conditions to him. The actual historical record preserves relatively little definitive information about his private life. What is documented is Plunkett's role, his access, and his presence at Greystone on February 16. The relationship between the two men, whatever its exact character, placed them in proximity that day. The secretary came to the mansion. The employer was present. The two men interacted. The events that followed would be reconstructed from physical evidence and limited witness accounts. Plunkett's motivations, if he was indeed the shooter, remain matters of interpretation rather than documented fact. The position of trusted employee creates particular dynamics. Plunkett was neither family member nor stranger. He occupied middle ground, inside the family's affairs, but not of the family itself. This position granted access while maintaining hierarchical separation. The role's ambiguity could create tensions. Employees who know family secrets exist in positions of trust and vulnerability simultaneously. The relationship requires mutual confidence that can become complicated when circumstances change or pressures mount. Chapter 12, February 16, 1929, the day of the shooting. February 16, 1929 was a Saturday. The day began routinely at Greystone. The household staff attended to regular duties. Ned Doheny was at the mansion. Lucy and the children were elsewhere. Various accounts suggesting they were visiting relatives or attending to other activities. The specifics of family members' locations that morning vary in different historical sources. Hugh Plunkett arrived at Greystone during the afternoon. His arrival was not unusual. Saturdays sometimes involved work for executives and their staff during this period. Plunkett's presence at the mansion had legitimate professional explanation. The exact time of his arrival is documented in some accounts as mid-afternoon, though precision varies across sources. The events between Plunkett's arrival and the discovery of bodies are not witnessed or documented. What occurred in the mansion during that period is unknown. No reliable witness accounts exist describing interaction between the two men that afternoon. The gap in documentation is significant. Reconstruction of events depends on physical evidence discovered later, rather than observation of what actually transpired. At approximately 8 o'clock that evening, household staff discovered two bodies in an upstairs guest bedroom. The location was not Ned's own bedroom, but rather a smaller room used for guests. Both Ned Doheny and Hugh Plunkett were dead. Both men had been shot. A single handgun lay near the bodies. The scene presented a apparent murder-suicide scenario. The staff member who discovered the bodies immediately contacted authorities. The Beverly Hills Police Department responded to the Doheny estate. Officers arrived to find the bodies and the weapon. The investigation began with documentation of the crime scene. Photographs were taken. Physical evidence was noted. The bodies' positions and the weapon's location were recorded. Initial observations suggested sequence. Plunkett had shot Ned Doheny, then shot himself. The location of wounds supported this interpretation. Ned's wound was determined to be fatal shot to the head. Plunkett's wound was also to the head, consistent with self-inflicted gunshot. The weapon's position near Plunkett's body suggested he had been the shooter and dropped or released the gun after shooting himself. The guest bedroom where the bodies were found showed signs of disturbance. The room's condition suggested struggle or sudden violent action. The specifics of the scene were documented by investigators, but detailed descriptions vary in surviving records. The physical evidence would be crucial to determining what occurred, though interpretation of that evidence would later become controversial. Notification of family members began immediately. Lucy Doheny was informed her husband was dead. Edward Doheny Sr. received news his son had been killed. The shock to the family was total. Ned was 45 years old. His death was sudden and violent. The circumstances were immediately suspicious and disturbing. The family moved quickly to Greystone. The timeline from Plunkett's arrival to the discovery of bodies suggested the shooting occurred sometime during the afternoon or early evening. The bodies were discovered at approximately 8 o'clock. The time of death would be estimated by medical examination, but the gap between shooting and discovery was likely measured in hours rather than minutes. The men lay dead in the guest bedroom, while household staff continued activities elsewhere in the mansion. The weapon used was handgun belonging to the Doheny family. The gun's ownership established it was not brought to the scene by Plunkett. The weapon was already at Greystone. This detail would become significant in later analysis. The shooter used available weapon rather than bringing gun to the mansion specifically for the shooting. The evening of February 16 transformed Greystone from family residence to crime scene. The mansion, built at enormous expense, occupied for mere months, became site of violence that would define its history. The investigation into what occurred would begin immediately and would conclude with shocking speed given the circumstances. The official explanation would be established within days. Questions about that explanation would persist for decades. Chapter 13. The official story: murder-suicide. The Beverly Hills Police Department and Los Angeles County authorities investigated the deaths at Greystone. The investigation proceeded through standard protocols: crime scene examination, witness interviews, forensic analysis, and coroner's examination. The process moved quickly. Within days, official conclusions emerged. The determination was murder-suicide. According to the official finding, Hugh Plunkett shot Ned Doheny, then shot himself. The physical evidence supported this sequence. The weapon's position near Plunkett's body suggested he was the shooter. The wounds were consistent with the proposed sequence. The powder burns and wound characteristics matched expectations for shots fired at close range. The coroner's inquest convened shortly after the shooting. The inquest was formal proceeding examining circumstances of sudden or suspicious deaths. Witnesses testified about what they knew. Medical testimony described the wounds and cause of death. The physical evidence was presented. The inquest jury, composed of citizens, heard the evidence and rendered findings. The inquest concluded that Ned Doheny was killed by Hugh Plunkett, who then committed suicide. The finding aligned with police conclusions. The official record established this explanation as fact. The district attorney declined to pursue further investigation or prosecution, accepting the murder-suicide determination as final. The question of motive was more problematic. Why would Plunkett kill his employer? The official explanation suggested temporary insanity. Plunkett was described as having experienced mental breakdown. No specific rational motive was established. The temporary insanity explanation allowed the murder-suicide finding without requiring concrete reason for Plunkett's actions. Some contemporary accounts suggested Plunkett feared being implicated in Teapot Dome scandal testimony. The theory proposed that Plunkett worried about being called to testify regarding matters he knew through his secretarial work. The anxiety about potential testimony supposedly triggered mental crisis, leading to violence. The explanation was speculative, but provided narrative making sense of otherwise inexplicable act. The Doheny family accepted the official findings publicly. Edward Doheny Sr. made no public challenges to the murder-suicide conclusion. Lucy Doheny, similarly, did not dispute the official version. The family's acceptance helped close the matter. Without family pressure for continued investigation, authorities had little incentive to question conclusions already reached. The investigation's speed was notable. The shooting occurred Saturday evening. By early the following week, official findings were largely established. The coroner's inquest concluded within days. The case was effectively closed before February ended. The rapid resolution prevented extended public examination of circumstances. The quickness benefited the Doheny family by limiting newspaper coverage and speculation. The physical evidence documented at the scene included the gun, the body's positions, the wound characteristics, and the room's condition. Investigators photographed the scene and recorded observations. The evidence preserved in official records would later be subject to re-examination and reinterpretation. The initial investigation's conclusions would not be the final word for historians and researchers examining the case decades later. Ned Doheny's funeral occurred within days of his death. The service was private, attended by family and close associates. The burial took place at family plot. The funeral proceedings were subdued given the circumstances. The manner of Ned's death complicated public mourning. The murder-suicide finding meant his death was intertwined with another man's violence and self-destruction. Hugh Plunkett was buried separately. His funeral arrangements were distinct from Ned's. Plunkett was identified as murderer in official findings. His burial did not receive the attention given to Ned's. The separation in death reflected the conclusions about their final moments, victim and killer, rather than employer and employee dying in unexplained tragedy. The official story provided closure. Murder-suicide explained the two deaths. Temporary insanity explained the irrational act. The investigation was complete. The case was closed. The explanation entered public record and historical accounts. Greystone would be known as site of murder-suicide, with Hugh Plunkett identified as killer. That narrative would dominate for decades before researchers began questioning whether the official story told the complete truth about what happened February 16, 1929. Chapter 14. Questions and Inconsistencies. What doesn't add up? The official murder-suicide finding resolved the case legally and publicly. However, physical evidence and circumstantial details presented problems with that explanation. Researchers and investigators examining the case in later decades identified multiple inconsistencies, suggesting the official story might be incomplete or incorrect. The wound trajectories presented first major issue. Forensic analysis of bullet paths through the bodies suggested angles inconsistent with simple murder-suicide scenario. Ned's wound showed bullet trajectory that some experts argued would be difficult for Plunkett to achieve in face-to-face confrontation or struggle. The angle suggested shooter position that didn't match expected positioning if Plunkett was standing and Ned was victim of assault. The powder burn patterns on both bodies also raised questions. Powder burns indicate distance between gun muzzle and target when fired. The patterns on both men's wounds were analyzed by later investigators. Some analysts concluded the patterns were inconsistent with proposed sequence of Plunkett shooting Ned, then himself. The burns suggested possible alternative scenarios about weapon positioning during the shots. Plunkett's wound characteristics sparked particular scrutiny. Self-inflicted gunshot wounds typically show specific patterns. The weapon angle, powder distribution, and wound location follow predictable patterns when someone shoots themselves. Plunkett's wound showed characteristics that some forensic experts questioned as inconsistent with suicide. The positioning suggested possibilities beyond simple self-infliction of fatal wound. The weapon itself created questions. The gun belonged to the Doheny family and was kept at Greystone. If Plunkett arrived intending violence, why not bring his own weapon? Using household guns suggested either crime of passion, using available weapon, or alternatively, that someone else used the family's gun. The weapon choice didn't definitively prove anything, but created ambiguity about premeditation and planning. The supposed motive was weak. Temporary insanity explained nothing while claiming to explain everything. If Plunkett feared Teapot Dome testimony, why kill Ned rather than himself or flee? The connection between anxiety about testimony and murder of employer was speculative at best. No evidence documented Plunkett's mental state definitively. The motive was attributed to him after death, when he couldn't confirm or deny the explanation. Witness statements were limited and sometimes contradictory. Household staff were questioned about Plunkett's arrival and any sounds heard. The accounts varied about timing and observations. Some staff noticed nothing unusual. Others recalled hearing sounds that might have been gunshots, but weren't recognized as such immediately. The witness testimony provided incomplete picture of the afternoon's events. Alternative theories emerged over the years. One possibility was that third party was present. The two men might have been killed by someone else who arranged the scene to suggest murder-suicide. This theory required explaining how unknown person accessed the mansion, killed both men, positioned the bodies and weapon, and left undetected. The theory was speculative but attempted to explain physical evidence inconsistencies. Another possibility was accidental shooting followed by panic. Perhaps the weapon discharged during argument or struggle, killing Ned. Plunkett, realizing the situation was indefensible, might have shot himself. This scenario explained both deaths while avoiding premeditated murder. The theory remained speculative without supporting evidence beyond logical possibility. Some researchers suggested the Doheny family might have influenced the investigation's conclusions. The family's wealth and influence in Los Angeles was substantial. Pressure to conclude the investigation quickly and quietly might have prevented thorough examination of alternative scenarios. The rapid closure served family interests by limiting scandal publicity during Teapot Dome trial period. Whether actual pressure occurred is unprovable from available records. The investigation itself showed limitations. Modern forensic techniques were unavailable in 1929. Ballistic analysis was primitive. Understanding of wound dynamics was less developed. The investigators worked with available methods, but those methods left questions unanswered. Later analysts with advanced techniques identified problems the original investigation missed or couldn't address. The physical evidence at the scene was not exhaustively documented. Photographs exist, but are limited. Detailed measurements and three-dimensional scene reconstruction weren't performed. The preservation of evidence for future examination was incomplete. Later attempts to reconstruct what occurred face limitations from inadequate initial documentation. The truth about what happened February 16, 1929 remains uncertain. The official story might be accurate. Plunkett might have killed Ned and himself for reasons that died with him. Alternatively, the physical evidence might indicate something more complex occurred. The historical record preserves questions without providing definitive answers. Greystone's most notorious day remains partially unexplained, despite official conclusions rendered within days of the tragedy. Chapter 15. Legacy and Aftermath. What became of Greystone? Lucy Doheny remained at Greystone briefly following her husband's death. The mansion held terrible memories. The building represented Ned's murder site, rather than family home. Lucy eventually moved elsewhere with the children. The departure was understandable given circumstances. Greystone stood vacant or minimally occupied during the years following February 1929. Edward Doheny Sr., devastated by his son's death, lived until 1935. He died at age 79, having survived his only son by 6 years. The oil fortune he built, the dynasty he imagined, the succession he planned, all were disrupted by Ned's violent death. Greystone stood as monument to aspirations that would not be realized as intended. The mansion remained in Doheny family control through subsequent decades. The building was used occasionally, but never again as permanent family residence. The scale and character of the house made it difficult property. Maintaining the building and grounds required substantial ongoing expense. Finding appropriate use for 55-room mansion presented challenges. The Doheny family eventually donated Greystone to the city of Beverly Hills. The exact transaction details and date were 1965, though various arrangements preceded the final transfer. The donation removed the property tax burden from the family while ensuring the building's preservation. Beverly Hills acquired significant property that would become public park and special events venue. The city's stewardship transformed Greystone's purpose. The mansion became filming location for motion pictures and television productions. The distinctive architecture and well-maintained grounds provided attractive settings. Numerous films were shot at Greystone over subsequent decades. The building appeared in movies across multiple genres. The filming use generated revenue, helping offset maintenance costs. Notable films using Greystone included The Big Lebowski, There Will Be Blood, X-Men, and many others. Television productions also utilized the location. The mansion's Gothic revival architecture suited period dramas. The scale and grandeur worked for stories requiring impressive settings. Greystone became familiar to audiences who never learned its actual history. The grounds became public park space. Beverly Hills residents could walk the gardens and grounds surrounding the mansion. The property offered rare, substantial, open space in the developed city. The views from the hillside property remained impressive. The public access represented dramatic transformation from private estate to community resource. The mansion itself opened for tours and special events on limited basis. The interior spaces hosted weddings, corporate events, and other functions. The rental income supported ongoing preservation and maintenance. The building's commercial use balanced preservation needs with financial reality of maintaining expensive historic structure. The murder story became part of Greystone's identity. Tour narratives acknowledged the 1929 shooting. The tragic history added element of dark fascination to the architectural interest. Some visitors came specifically because of murder association. The building's dual identity as architectural landmark and crime scene persisted through decades of public use. Preservation efforts maintained the building's physical condition. The limestone exterior required periodic attention. The slate roof needed repair and replacement of damaged tiles. Interior finishes deteriorated over time and required restoration. The preservation work represented ongoing commitment to maintaining Gordon Kaufman's design as he intended. The landscape evolved, but maintained essential character. The formal gardens required constant maintenance. Original plantings matured and were sometimes replaced. The overall design persisted, while specific elements changed. The grounds remained a distinctive feature of the property, complementing the architecture and providing settings for events and filming. The Doheny family's connection to Greystone persisted through the building's survival. The mansion stood as a reminder of oil fortune's scale and the dynasty that never fully materialized. Edward Doheny's success in petroleum industry was real and lasting. His attempt to establish permanent family seat in Southern California society was complicated by scandal and tragedy. Greystone represented both achievement and loss. Modern visitors to Greystone encounter complex legacy. The architectural quality is undeniable. Gordon Kaufman created significant work demonstrating his skill and the possibilities of substantial budget and ambitious client. The craftsmanship in construction is evident throughout. The building succeeds as architecture regardless of occupants' tragic story. The unsolved questions about February 16, 1929 remain present for those aware of the history. The official murder-suicide finding exists in public record. The physical evidence problems and alternative theories persist in research literature. The building itself cannot answer what occurred in the guest bedroom that Saturday evening. Greystone holds its secrets while serving new purposes that its builders never imagined. The building also represents American dynasty building impulse. Edward Doheny rose from prospector to oil magnate. He built Greystone to house the next generation. The mansion was meant to establish permanent family position in California society. That intention was cut short by violence the building could neither prevent nor explain. The corruption scandal that shadowed the construction remains part of the story. Teapot Dome represented government officials selling public resources to private interests. The scandal damaged Doheny's reputation permanently. Building Greystone during the controversy suggested defiance or denial. The mansion couldn't restore respectability that legal proceedings and public opinion had eroded. The events of February 16, 1929 transformed Greystone forever. Ned Doheny and Hugh Plunkett died in circumstances never fully explained. The official story provided closure that physical evidence questioned. The truth about what happened in the guest bedroom remains uncertain despite confident conclusions rendered days after the shooting. The building's subsequent history shows how architecture survives original purposes. Greystone was built as family home. It briefly served that function. The tragedy ended residential use. The building remained, finding new purposes across subsequent decades. Film location, event venue, public park, these uses were unimaginable to the mansion's builders, but allowed its preservation. Greystone today functions successfully in roles its designers never anticipated. The public can walk grounds that were private estate. Film audiences see the mansion without learning its history. Event guests celebrate in rooms where violence occurred. The building continues, adapted to circumstances that bear no resemblance to original intentions. The architectural achievement remains valid. Gordon Kaufman created significant building demonstrating mastery of historical styles and large-scale design. The construction quality is evident throughout. The craftsmanship represents standards that built Greystone to last. The preservation efforts maintain that quality for future generations. The murder mystery persists as unresolved element of Greystone's story. Researchers continue examining evidence. Alternative theories remain speculative. The historical record preserves questions without answers. The building cannot reveal what it witnessed. The truth about February 16, 1929 may never be definitively established. Greystone's complexity makes it compelling. The building is simultaneously architectural landmark, failed dynasty symbol, corruption scandal backdrop, unsolved murder site, and public resource. All these identities coexist. None can be separated from the others. Understanding Greystone requires acknowledging the full complexity of its history. The limestone walls that rise above Beverly Hills contain all these stories. The building Edward Doheny financed for his son's family outlived both men and found purposes neither imagined. Greystone endures, transformed but intact, bearing witness to ambition, wealth, tragedy, and the unexpected paths buildings travel through time.